You left the bad blood on the court for the most part, but not with Laimbeer. You never really ever liked Laimbeer in any social situation.
No.
Yeah.
It's because he was a dirty player.
Right.
Now, he had to do what he had to do. I understand that. You take, like Ricky Mahorn, he'd hit you and all that, but he'd hit you, you know you're going to get hit.
Yeah.
But he didn't try to maim you.
Right.
Bill tried to hurt you.
The NBA in the 1980s was known for its fierce style of defense. Not every team in that decade played great defense, but several did, and one of those teams specifically played not just great team defense, but violent defense. If the opposing team ever decided to attack the painted area, this team was sure to punish them physically for it. I'm talking about the bad boy Detroit Pistons. The talented leader of this team was Isiah Thomas, but the member with the most bite was none other than their 6'11 center, Bill Laimbeer. Remember a couple years ago when some people were actually calling Zaza Pachulia the dirtiest player of NBA history? Yeah, Bill Laimbeer is the reason I found that hilarious. Laimbeer was notorious for his trash talking, his physicality, antics, and cheap shots. This man was not only one of the most intimidating players in all of the NBA, but he was also the most hated. I know that's a strong word, but it's not inaccurate. Fans during the 80s and players around the league didn't appreciate the way Laimbeer was always instigating fights and finding ways to put the offensive player in danger. Amazingly, this league-wide disgust of Laimbeer was something that never discouraged him. In fact, he reveled in it. Laimbeer took pride in the fact that he was seen as a bad guy and was the face of the Pistons' punishing defense. I mean, for goodness sake, all you need to do is look at this man's basketball reference page and you'll see that among his nicknames were the Prince of Darkness and his Heinous. That should tell you all you need to know about this terrifying man. What's crazy and sometimes gets lost behind his punishing reputation was the fact that Laimbeer was actually a really solid basketball player. Dennis Rodman said it this way: Laimbeer was more than a thug, but that's what he'll be remembered for. He played over 1,000 games in his career, and over those games, he averaged just short of a double-double. He was a strong, physical player who knew how to box out and get plenty of boards, and he was consistently one of the best rebounders in the game, including the 1985-86 season, where he led the league in rebounding with an average of 13.1 rebounds. Although he was drafted in 1979 by the Cleveland Cavaliers, he was traded to the Pistons the next season, and that's where he made his mark. During the best stretch of his career from 1981 to 1989, he averaged 14.6 points, 11.1 rebounds on 50.2% shooting. He was also one of the first stretch bigs of the NBA. Despite being a 6'11 center in the 80s, Laimbeer would still step outside and knock down three-pointers consistently, especially later on in his career. With guards like Isiah Thomas and Joe Dumars, Laimbeer was always setting screens and usually took advantage of those plays by running the pick and pop and converting many three-pointers. He was tough and he was also extremely durable, as he never played less than 79 games in a season in his first 14 years of his career. That's pretty remarkable considering all the chaos he always found himself in the middle of. At one point, he actually played in 685 games straight, which is the 5th longest streak of NBA history. The streak ended not due to an injury, but actually a suspension. Somehow, that seems quite fitting. During his best years, he was averaging over 17 points and over 12 rebounds. That's decently close to prime Pau Gasol numbers. That's a good way of describing him, actually. He's basically a violent discount version of Pau Gasol. Yeah, I like that. Later in the 80s, the Pistons finally broke through and won back-to-back championships in the 1989 and the 1990 season, and Bill had a lot to do with their success those years, especially defensively. As his career was coming to a close in the 93-94 season, Bill got into a scuffle with the team captain Isiah Thomas at practice, which resulted in Thomas breaking his hand. These longtime teammates and friends had always gone to battle together, although it was usually against the opposing team, but now their intensity had turned them on one another. Bill was worried about the reaction from the Detroit fans after essentially breaking Isiah Thomas's hand, and after a private meeting with Isiah and their head coach, Laimbeer decided to call it quits then and there and retired from the NBA. Although Thomas and Laimbeer are close friends to this day, it was a bit of a grim way for his career to end. Let me know in the comments section your opinion of Bill Laimbeer. Do you love him? Do you despise him? Do you even respect him? I look forward to hearing your thoughts. Thanks for watching as always. Make sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content, and I'll see you guys in the next video.